All right, let's jump right into this. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are cracking open a digital mystery that completely blurs the line between a simple game and a meticulously crafted horror story. It's a real trip. We're looking at a seemingly normal single-player Minecraft world that behaves in ways it absolutely 100% shouldn't. And it all kicks off with a player named Avery who logs in one day only to find a structure he never built, containing a chest he never placed, holding a book he never actually wrote.
Right off the bat, the very first line of this mysterious book reads like a desperate warning. It says, "Whatever you do, at the crossroads, don't turn left. Don't be fooled. It's listening. You can't outsmart it. It's listening to me, watching me. It isn't from this world." It just keeps repeating that chilling phrase about the crossroads over and over again, completely shattering that cozy, safe feeling you usually get in a solo gaming session.
So you know right away this isn't just some random game glitch, right? It's a mystery box practically begging to be opened. Avery actually explained that he bought the laptop he was playing on from a storage locker, and this weird world was just already on it. Now, at the very end of this frantic, rambling book, there was a sequence of numbers. But here's the kicker. That initial number code seemed like a total dead end. It wasn't an alphabetical code, it wasn't game coordinates, and it didn't match any known cipher. Honestly, it looked like the trail had gone entirely cold. But this is where the sheer level of detail in these clues gets truly wild. At the very end of Avery's original footage, his game inventory flashes a random pattern of blocks for exactly 2 frames. Literally blink and you miss it. But some incredibly observant viewers spotted this and realized it was actually a cipher. By taking the first letter of every single block name in that split-second flash, it spelled out a string of characters that perfectly matched the length of a Google Drive URL. And popping that URL into a browser, well, that opened a hidden folder of secret footage, and that is where the true mystery actually begins. Okay, but here is where the narrative starts to fracture a bit. There's a slight yet really glaring inconsistency between Avery's public story and what's actually sitting in this hidden drive. Inside the drive, there's a PDF document detailing the exploration of this world. The author of that PDF writes that they installed Minecraft on the laptop themselves and found the world pre-created. But hold up, Avery said the laptop already had Minecraft installed when he bought it. This little contradiction plants a massive seed of doubt. Like, who is actually controlling the narrative here?
As we dig into the hidden drive footage, which is literally just named Footage 1, we watch a player exploring a cave system that completely throws game logic out the window. The atmosphere gets incredibly oppressive as they stumble into all this unnatural terrain generation. I mean, we're talking moss and grass spawning deep underground where it literally shouldn't, strange, abnormal shrubs, and giant trees growing inside these dark caverns. Eventually, the player comes across this massive, impossible gate made of meticulously stacked spruce, mud, and oak wood, leading straight into a pitch-black mud brick tunnel. So, as the player ventures deeper into this creepy mud brick tunnel, constantly looking over their shoulder, we really have to ask ourselves, are they actually alone in this single-player world? The game says yes, but the environment is loudly screaming no. Something feels so incredibly wrong here, forcing us to wonder if this is just a heavily modified game or if there's something much darker, much more sinister at play. And you can literally track the rising tension in this footage. As the player walks down the tunnel, pairs of torches suddenly vanish from the walls right behind them. Later on, as they're exploring, if you listen really closely to the audio, you hear footsteps on stone. But the truly terrifying part, those footsteps pause just a fraction of a second after the player stops moving, and when they finally flee into an underwater tunnel network and literally barricade themselves inside a wall, faint, eerie whispers echo past them. They are undeniably being stalked by something mimicking their every move.
Now, to understand the protagonist's absolutely genius countermove against this unseen stalker, we first have to understand a technical rule of the game: chunk loading. In Minecraft, the world is broken up into invisible chunks. Basically, to save computer memory, the game only processes things like water flowing, items dropping, or grass growing when a player or an active entity is physically close enough to load that specific chunk of the map. If you walk away, the chunk unloads and time essentially freezes in that spot. So the player proves they are incredibly smart by leveraging this exact game mechanic to set up a trap. They arrive at an underground lake and plug the entry hole. Then they build a hopper filled with items. The logic is, if they leave the area to unload the chunk, the hopper should freeze. If they come back and the hopper is empty, it means something else walked into that area and loaded the chunk while they were gone. And without saying a single word to us, the audience, the player also places a dirt block right next to a grass block as a silent, secondary trap. When the player returns, the items are still sitting right there in the hopper. It looks like nothing followed them.
But then they open the game chat and type, "Something is here." Why? Because of that dirt block. It turned into a grass block. Because grass literally cannot spread in an unloaded chunk, this proves, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that a secondary, unseen entity absolutely followed them and loaded that chunk while they were away.
This realization completely elevates the situation from a simple ghost story to a high-stakes game of cat and mouse. Yes, the player is a genius, but the adversary? It's just as smart. Think about it. That hopper wasn't untouched. The entity had purposefully refilled the items to hide its tracks. It also blocks up tunnels behind itself. And earlier in the footage, we can see it left barely visible blank signs hidden in the corners of the environment. If you actually map the rotation of those signs, they perfectly intersect to subtly guide the player exactly where the entity wants them to go.
So, guided by these terrifyingly subtle clues, our player navigates this sprawling, claustrophobic maze, facing dead end after dead end. Eventually, they break through to a giant room featuring a locked door and a deeply complex visual code on the wall. The player just stares at this for 17 minutes in the footage before realizing it's a cipher stacked puzzle, basically two codes layered on top of each other. Against all odds, they figure it out and break through the gate. But even after all this brilliant problem solving,
the most shocking revelation of this entire explainer is about to drop. Right as the player breaches the gate, the black sensor bar covering their username in the corner of the screen slips, just for a fraction of a second, but it's enough. The name on the screen isn't Avery. It's an entirely different username, an entirely different skin. This is the ultimate plot twist that completely subverts our reliable narrator, pulling the rug right out from under us.
this changes absolutely everything. Avery didn't record this hidden Google Drive footage at all. That name that flashed on screen was D3 Lord 3. We have been watching D3 Lord 3 this entire time. And suddenly, those conflicting stories in the PDF make total sense. Avery found this horrific digital breadcrumb trail left behind by the previous owner of the storage locker laptop. We are literally watching the doomed final steps of the person who played this world before Avery ever found it.
So, what actually happens to D3 Lord Triumph? Well, he finally pushes past those puzzle doors and discovers a sprawling, desolate village. And it is completely eerie. The structures are abandoned with literal holes in the roofs. The chests are totally devoid of any loot. There's this strange repetitive use of yellow carpets and beds everywhere, and a barren, empty statue sits right in the center of the town. There are no more clues, no more paths, and no escape. It's a dead end.
With literally nowhere left to run, D3 Lord's utter despair just fully sets in. He stops, opens a book, and writes a final confession. He realizes the villagers here must have worshipped something, writing, "The king is coming. If anything, I wager that their king is already here. It's watching me write this." He begs whoever finds this world to disconnect and turn back. He's realized that the entity stalking him, this so-called king, has finally caught up.
And as he types this warning into the game, this horrifying realization just washes over you. The words D3 Lords 3 is typing are, "Whatever you do, at the crossroads, don't turn left." The narrative perfectly loops back on itself. This final confession is the exact same mysterious book that Avery found in his chest at the very beginning of the story. We've just watched the origin story of how that impossible book came to be in the first place. In the final moments of this hidden footage, D3 Lord 3 looks past the village gates. Suddenly, this massive, unnatural black sensor square covers whatever horrifying thing he sees. He immediately turns and runs for his absolute life, and the footage just abruptly cuts to black. Whatever drove the smartest, most calculated protagonist we've ever seen into an absolute blinding panic is left entirely to our own terrifying imagination.
But wait, the story isn't quite over. Remember those unsolvable, rambling numbers at the very end of the first book Avery found? The code that literally no cipher could crack? Well, now that we have the full context of the hidden footage, we finally have the missing key.
Using the hidden footage itself, we can actually crack that final cipher. Those numbers in the book perfectly correspond to the 36 inventory slots of D3R Lord 3's characters shown on screen. If you match the numbers to the slots and extract the first letter of each specific item D3R Lord 3 was carrying in those slots at the time, it spells out a final hidden message.
The decoded message reads, "Run Avery, it's here." And that chilling final warning just completely shatters everything. How could D3 Lord 3, trapped in the past by this entity, possibly know the name of the person who would buy his laptop from a storage locker years in the future? Is Avery now the entity's next target? It really leaves you wondering, if a digital world can reach out and somehow learn your name, what else is it truly capable of doing?
Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I'll catch you next time.